a spirit told them, leave Tinashe out of this. She's under the blood.
I want to speak to the deacons.
Entity. So as soon as you call or challenge someone in how they've been a mom, it's very hard to not take that as a stab at your whole identity.
Hey. I've done most of it. Ask me. Or if I didn't do it, I was watching it being done. Trust
Yes,
me,
50% can be even 99% divorce rate. That does not mean God's ideal was.
Not biased, but I
must
really
always
do
reassure
think
the
that really helps. And for some of us need medication. If it's really.
Welcome back, Weaving Reads family. We're finally back with season 2. Boo, 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 boo. For those of you that don't know, season 1 has been out for a while. And in season 1, we were focusing on the story of Moses and Jochebed, his mother. But season 2, we decided to switch frames a little bit. We'll be looking at dysfunction. Making or raising kids that will be able to stand despite a dysfunctional background. And for that, we'll be using the template of Joseph. But before we actually go into any of that, we thought it was just prudent, nice, kind for you to get to know us a little bit more so that you can see the lens from which we're seeing things, and then we could see things better through the lens of Joseph throughout the season. So I hope you guys will enjoy the whole season. I hope it will be a blessing. And like I always say, grab your Bibles and let's get weaving.
So we met as students. We both went to UCT. We met in the early 2000s. Yeah. We went to the same church and we belonged to what was called ASCM back in the days, before SDASM. It was called Adventist Students Christian Movement. And we had, the same friends. So that's how we met. We were friends for some time and then we started going out and one thing led to another and the rest is history.
And here we are.
Years later.
Well, we met at school in university, but we belonged to different SDASMs in Bloemfontein. And he was part of the executive committee of the other SDASM. I was part of the executive committee of my SDASM. So we would meet like during opening functions and things like that. So, yeah.
What she said.
All right, so this is how we met. I think we met 2012 was a mission conference. And now she came with a huge bag. Like, it's a weekend conference, but she's got those cricket bags.
It was a duffel bag.
It was really huge. So I see this, she even came late. So I see her, she's got this huge bag. And I'm like, why do you have such a huge bag? And I started teasing about that bag. People were laughing. I really made great jokes.
No, it was before. You didn't know it was my bag.
Oh, yeah.
You just knew it was a bag.
That's true. Yeah, I started with seeing this bag. Then when they put a face to the bag,
we were both making jokes about the bag.
Oh.
Yes, we were making jokes about whoever's bag this was. And then 10 minutes in, I said, that's my bag.
Oh, okay. I still continued. Right. Yeah, I still continued teasing you about that bag. Then we had to carry the bag to where the ladies' dormitories were. Then we didn't talk for years after that. Then we met at a mission again. And I think from there, that's when we talked more frequently. So, and we became friends, I think. So, yeah.
We became friends. I did not want anything to do with marriage. I thought how my life was going to be. I was going to be like Anne the prophetess in my 80s, just working for the Lord. And then how it actually dawned on me that maybe that's not going to be my life was I was speaking. It was a SDASM Sabbath opening. And I was speaking about God having our best interest at heart and basically just, following God wherever he leads because he really does have your best interest at heart. And as I sat down, the thought came to me out of nowhere. If I told you to get married, would you? And I was like, but you're not gonna. I mean, we're doing this together. But then I realized that I was actually uncomfortable with trusting God about that aspect because I hadn't actually consulted God. I just knew I was not going to get married. So then I went on this very scientific search, trying to disprove marriage. That was really what I was trying to do. And it went on for a few years. And then what I started noticing was I had a few projects that we were working on at STASM, and I hate writing. I hate bureaucracy. I mean, let's do things, right? And because he was friends with me, I'd be telling him we're doing this, and he'd be like, "No, but do you have a concept plan?" And I was like, "Well, I'll do the concept plan if you want to." And he'd send it to me. And then I started realizing that basically what I could not do, he liked doing. That kind of freaked me out a little bit, and then we stopped speaking for a while because I think I was just freaked out quite a lot. And then you asked me out after a while.
Before that, because God also plays a big role in my
Oh, yeah.
journey. So what you need to understand is that Palisa was not an approachable person. Well, she's approachable, but everyone, all guys knew that there was no chance. There are better guys than me who approached and they all failed. And then the friendships ended. So when we met, I didn't think, look, anything like that would happen. Look, when you approached Palisa, you were preparing yourself for rejection. You needed to have your heart prepared.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm saying this to say the point that it is only God in my prayer life, in my quiet place. I'd also gone through a traumatic thing, and I didn't want anything to do with relationships at that time. And in my prayer life, when God convinced me and said, go, that's the only reason I went. Had he not said, I would not even try it, because, just watching the carnage, and brothers coming back, and I'm like, these are good guys. What's the problem? Because, we're friends, I knew everything, and so forth. So, So God really is the one who told me, my man, go. And I went. And
when you did, actually, I told you to wait 9 months. I told you to wait for me 9 months. And then
that time.
Yeah. And then actually, Shoni said to me, and that's what made me, actually, it was part of what made me change my mind. But the night I sent you the email, I responded via email to
Can
his
you
proposal.
believe it?
I read a statement that said, nestle in the arms of God. Do not try to wrestle yourself out. And the impression came to my mind that this was me wrestling myself out. And that's when I decided, okay, we can make this work.
Okay, next question.
Yes.
Next question.
Yeah, I think mainly it's in 3 parts for me. So, family, I think seeing how family members, relatives behaved around each other, and especially like married family members, because in families you have people that are married and some that are not married. So I observed those who were married and kind of saw how married couples behave. And then at church, seeing how married couples also related to each other and also to their kids as well. That was really big influence. And then I think what was like really a much stronger influence for me personally was seeing some of the family friends as well that my parents had, and how they behaved, how they raised their kids. That had a big influence on me. And so I think just those 3 observations had a big influence on me on how marriage is done. Yeah.
To be honest, as a child, I don't think I ever thought of or noticed other families. I just didn't think about it, to be honest. Only when I was now in a relationship, when we had met, when we were now in varsity, did I start taking, notice of things like that. I often speak to friends and, particularly girlfriends, and they'll be like, oh, when I was young, I used to, think about how I want my home to be. I wasn't quite like that. Mm-hmm. But, once I was in a relationship, I started, interacting with other family, church family members. In particular, had 2 couples that we spent a lot of time with as students. We used to have Sabbath lunch with one family, and we used to visit the other family, after Sabbath. And it was just always interesting to just see how they dealt with their families. And I think then it started saying, at least, is this how families behave? Is this how families interact? I remember saying to Tabang years ago, one of the families that we used to spend a lot of time with, it was the first time I'd been with such a child-centered family home. I don't know, for the first time I was like, do people treat children like this? Like, it was so interesting to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one Sabbath evening we were Saturday evening, it was after the Sabbath, we were spending time with them. And the couple was like, guys, just give us a few minutes. We want our kids to brush their teeth and put them to bed, and then we'll be back. We're like, hi, bo, you've got visitors and you will do that. So it's then when we started noticing, how different families, and like, okay, I'd like to do that in my home, or I wouldn't like to do this in my home. But yeah, that's when for me it started happening. So it was mostly with a lot of church family friends.
How we perceive a family. Well, for me, I think I did not have anything like a benchmark in my mind about what a family should look like. But there were principles I was taught, principles I also learned studying the Bible and observing, I guess, from family. But I guess the picture comes together when you're now in the marriage. Yeah, when you're now in the marriage, then you start recalling experiences, you start observing what's out there, and then you start formulating that picture of what it is that you want to see out of your family. So for me, I would describe it this way. It's like you're on a flight and you're building the plane as you fly. That's my description of it.
Well, for me, I grew up in a family where my parents were like the counselors of, the community, a church, in our family. So everybody would come home basically when they had problems. So I was the kid that stood behind the door and listened to everything. So different families, different family dynamics, single parent homes, 2-parent households, situations where there was, infidelity, abuse, all of that. And I got to see how, different settings worked for different people. And I started to formulate what I wanted from those observations. And for me, it was like, okay, if I am to have a family, I know that what matters is the character of the person that you're with. Doesn't matter how well-moneyed you are, doesn't matter, the background that you have, whether you're a single parent, whatever. The character is what makes a partner that will be with you for a lifetime. So that's what that was my focus when I was looking for, somebody to make a family
so basically
with.
having a template of what is good and figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
Well, I had a very elevated view of marriage. I was looking forward to it. I was reading everything about it. And I had this idea that marriage is such a beautiful thing. Oh, it's great. I couldn't wait. I told myself, 25, I'm getting married, something I looked forward to. And then my parents got divorced. And when they got divorced, that changed something in my mind and in the way I viewed marriage. The sense of permanence disappeared. I never saw a marriage relationship as a happily ever after. There was always like this doubt, maybe this thing can end or something like that. So that sense of permanence, I don't know how else to coin it, that really was shattered and destroyed completely. But maybe before that, the other things that informed my view on marriage was the families at church. My parents were not perfect, yes. No one has a perfect family. So that was not always a perfect template. But watching others also made up for the weaknesses that they had, but they also had strengths that other people had weaknesses in. So, during lunch, the men sitting, there was a man who used to always sit with the men. Then after eating, he goes and he eats with his wife. And I thought, that is romantic. There was another man who knew the shoe sizes, everything, like European sizes. And I was like, this is a good man. There was another man who was so supportive of his wife. I mean, wherever she went, he was there. And I was like, I want to be a man like that. And so I can quote, I don't want to mention the families, but all of these things help to build what my view of what a marriage should look like.
I was the complete opposite. Most of the marriages I knew were a mess. So I was just like, I think my parents got divorced when I was very young. So their marriage, I just always knew was not great. So it never really influenced me that much. But family of mine who I thought was like, oh wow, this is what a good marriage looks like. And when things went sour there, that's when I was like, people can 10. You can't trust this thing. So I always felt marriage was not great. So yeah, that was really what influenced my perception.
Okay.
Okay, you go first.
I thought I was very organized and I had it together, shame, before marriage and particularly before parenthood. I thought I was an A-type personality. That was just, I thought I was just an organized person. Lo and behold, I just didn't realize I didn't have much responsibilities. Actually, that was it. Because when you get married, when you have kids, you have a million things to. When people say it's difficult to adult, I know what that means because I found that difficult. Particularly as parents who've taken an interest in true education. As we've studied, about character development in children, as we've studied about, as we continue to study about the type of home we are trying to build, the more you realize how much you lack. And I think, for me, that was one of the things, just to realize that, listen, I am still a child, literally, and God is reteaching me different things that I thought I had under control, whether it's being organized, whether it's my concept of what self-control is, patience, all of that, slowly but surely, throughout our marriage and throughout, our early parenthood especially, I started realizing that, God is going to redo everything.
Sure. I think that's why we're more organized now. So I think it's...
we try, Shane.
Yeah. No, for me, it's... I realize I'm a warm body, man. Like a warm home body. Yeah. Like I used to think I like being outside and doing things. But now in marriage, I just love being at home. Like if you just have home cooked food and things are good, like I'm in my zone. I'm happy. I like doing things with the family, like going for walks and stuff. So we like going to like these nature parks and walk around with the family. I enjoy that. I think that's for me has come out nicely. The other thing which I think is something that was quite eye-opening for me and very strange was to realize how much I value love languages. And I think that it's something that was not really important to me before I got married. So things like respect, things like words of affirmation, that stuff like that. Like you start to realize how important they are to you. Before I didn't think it was important, but like I find it empowering. Like if I hear my kids say nice things about me. Like if they say like, well done, like thank you for doing this, like that's quite cool. But before I didn't care about that, but now maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know. Like I think it's actually quite a cool thing. And to know that, my wife respects me, it's kind of like quite cool. So it's like I'm the big papa in the house. Slim, but I'm a big papa in the house. Yeah. So it's quite cool, yeah.
For me, I realize I'm a person that likes to be in control, and marriage has no room for that. I want things to be a specific way, and they must continue being that way. But marriage is an institution that throws at you curveballs at any opportunity. So navigating that, learning to let go, learning to trust God especially, that was a big one for me. Just realizing, okay, you don't have to have things put together all the time. You don't have to be put together all the time. You don't have to have things in control all the time. And where you fall short, God will make up, the rest. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, there's nothing much that comes to my mind except to think about how I had to grow up very quickly. Because, when you get married, before I got married, I was used to the idea in my mind that there's parents above me. And then now I get married And then I realized that ceiling where my parents were positioned, I'm now the person who's there with my wife. And so it was a growing up experience for me, more than it was about a revelation of character issues. Not to say that I was perfect or anything like that, or that I'm perfect. But for me, that's the one thing that comes to my mind, the growing up that one had to do. Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to my parents. My parents were two strong-willed people. Like, when they had a confrontation, no one was backing down. Like, it was like two bulls. So I used to watch that, and I thought, hey, I don't like this. I'm not going to do it. So if you go back to my past, I never fought with anyone. I always had peace with everybody. And that is because I sort of hated confrontation, and even good confrontation. I just couldn't do it. So there was always peace in all my relationships because I never confronted anything. I developed coping strategies. So if someone does something, let's say, for example, in our marriage, my wife loves to send. Like, she will send you for stuff. Like, the plug is right here. And then she'll call you from there. Come and come and charge the phone. So my coping thing was I'd wake up in the morning. What are the possible things that she can send me for? Then I'll do all of them. Make sure the phone is charged because I want to avoid, it's my coping strategy. But, in my prayer life, the Lord made me realize that marriage is not about creating a pseudo peace, some coping mechanism, but it's really about you need to, the beauty, what marriage is about, bringing two people together, having a relationship that forms oneness, if you like. And when you don't talk about issues, even in a healthy manner, you don't allow yourself to, that's how you actually become deep in your connection, by coming out, because you'll miss out on the opportunity of exercising grace and exercising forgiveness and peace, and you don't get to understand how the person goes through. Because I was a martyr. Man, I'm this great guy, man, I'm preventing, and this self-righteousness made me so unhappy. But when I took this different turn and I thought, you know what, let's talk about it. Now I got to know, she does this because she's processing a lot of things in her mind. Then now I do what I do from a space of grace. Okay, let me help her. She's really trying, and so forth. And, and that has made the journey more pleasing and, filled with love. So yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah, for me, I think I didn't realize how, I want to say petty, but petty is not the right word. It's more vengeful I could be. I was always ready to fight. Remember, I'm waiting for you to show me your true colors. In fact, at our wedding, Butu actually thought I was going to be a runaway bride because she thought I wouldn't go through with it, So I was, especially very early on, you do something, I want you to feel what you did. And I think the Lord then showed me that I was doing that more because I didn't think that God could have my back. And because of that, I need to make sure that I have my back. I didn't think you had my back. Even though there was nothing that you did that was wrong. It's just, you hit me, I hit you back. And because of that, I think that's one thing that the Lord really, really showed me.
She even hid my shoes.
Yeah. There was a time where I hid all of his left shoes.
I couldn't wear shoes. Can you believe it?
Because he had done something just because I wanted to. You must feel the irritation of life. I hit your guitar.
Yeah.
I went through a hiding phase. But
wow.
And then the Lord, and it was petty things like that,
Yeah.
And then the Lord actually showed me that this is not just because you're irritated. It's more distrust than anything. Yeah.
Should I do it? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the pregnancy, like we with one of our boys, we have two boys. So the pregnancy was quite cool. Like everything went well. We did all the checks and everything was like everything is perfect, And you're going through the process. And remember when you're having like a pregnancy, everything is, you're so hypersensitive to everything that's going on. and you want to do all the checks, you want to go see all the doctors. At that time, like spending money is not an issue. Even if you're broke, you just want to get things done properly. So we go through the process, and then of course the water breaks, and I remember we actually had we had the Akuk Paris at the time when the water broke. And
Family friend.
yeah, family friend, like one of the family you were referring to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we rushed to the hospital, so everything goes well, but we get there. Okay, it takes time. So kids don't like tell you, they don't like send you a message like, "Yo, I'm coming out at like 4:45 p.m." It's actually that's the time he was born. Yeah, actually both of them were born at the same time, and I was born at the same time too. Actually, like all of us were born at 4:45 p.m.
Imagine.
Yeah. Imagine all three of us. Yeah, it's a blessing. Anyway, so cut the long story short. So the kid gets born, and I have to follow the nurse to this room where they put him in a warm thing, and they have to like wipe him and stuff.
The incubator.
Not the incubator, it's like a bed. I forgot what it is. But anyway, it's like a special room. We go into it, and she does stuff. So he's wailing at that time. You know how they're like, yeah! But then I realized something, that wait a minute, there's something up with the leg. And so she looks at the leg, and the leg is flipping like 180 degrees, backwards, forwards. And at that time, it's like my heart nearly stopped. And I think the first thing that I thought at that time, I actually cried, because the first thing I thought was, how is his life going to be like? Because you're just thinking, this guy's not going to be able to run, he's not going to be able to do all the things that, and I mean, I love running, I love being outdoors at that time, so I thought he's not going to be able to do any of that stuff. So just kind of said a prayer at that time, and I was then thinking, we can't take the baby back to her in that state. So I spoke to the nurse, and then she wrapped him up in a cloth and just kind of kept it in, So at that time, you can't go back to like, she's just giving birth. You can't go back there crying, like, what are you crying about? So you have to like, I'm happy, and then we go back. Anyway, so we don't break it to her at that time. We just like get it done, and then we just say, no, this is the situation. We didn't even know what it was called at the time. So everyone was, especially like the medical staff at the time, was like, no, don't worry about it. Everything is going to be all right. Then they said, no, we're going to see a specialist, an orthopedic specialist. So we went to go see him. And he also just like calmed us down, said, guys, listen, this is very rare. It's a rare occurrence, but we can do something about it. And then he did some research. Medical people do lots of research. You always think like they have it at the front of their head, like, but this guy had to like go do some research. He said like, this
I
is like,
saw him opening a book. I was like, is this guy going to read about this for the first time or what?
Yeah. So he says it's called recuvatum, I think, recuvatum. And then he says, no, but we don't have to do any like surgical interventions. It can be done through like this process. So they gave us braces. So imagine like your kid, you have to, every time he sleeps, you have to brace him up in a particular position, because he says the cartilage has to form in that form. Yeah. And that gave me hope. And I just thanked God for it at that time, that, at least there was a way out. So we religiously did it. I mean, imagine introduction to parenting, and every day you were bracing a kid. You're not just changing nappies. You change the nappies, and you must brace them. So anything happens, you always have to brace them. Brace him all the time. But you see him now, he's a runner, he's a jumper, he climbs trees. Sometimes you get worried because he's like always on trees. So it's like, if this guy falls, maybe the recuvator might come back. No, but it won't come back now, because he's all formed up. But that was a testing moment. I think,
it was. It was. And I think I guess as the mother, you've got hormones happening, you've just had a baby, you're expecting everything to be perfect. It was definitely a trying time, but within weeks, actually, it was fine.
But God really came through. Like, I think it was a good test for us, and God knew that we could handle it, even though we didn't think so at the time. But I think it was, Anyway, here we are. They're both running. Yeah.
The first 3 years of marriage were quite a challenge for us, because, like I said, the first 3 years of marriage were a challenge, particularly because I realized that I just didn't trust him as much as I loved him, as much as I thought, we're going to be together forever. He's a good guy, whatever. But I just didn't think he was who he said he was. I don't know where I got that from, but, and I felt vulnerable, and I felt like, and, we got married and we moved to a different place. I was nowhere near home. I didn't know anybody there. So I felt very vulnerable. And in my mind, I thought of the worst possible things happening. So I stayed ready to fight, basically, I would start fights. I would not, do the things that you would expect in a marriage. Like I wouldn't cook just to see his reaction, just to see what are you going to do. I stayed ready for whatever that came, and my foot was always on the door. But I realized over time, again, through prayer and just letting go and observing the kind of person that he was, I got to see that, in fact, that was a good thing, because I really got to see his character and to see that he was a really, caring and considerate person. I just needed to give him that chance. And, God gave us that opportunity to just be alone and, figure everything out from there.
Yeah, she had an escape plan. So it was a bit crazy, but for me, I don't know, but I was able to deal with her craziness. So it wasn't really it was challenging, but I knew that it was about trust. And sometimes, for you to have someone to trust you, she trusted me enough to say I do. But then there was still that reality that now that I've said I do, and I'm in this thing, and we are more than 1,500 kilometers from the nearest family members, which I think was a good thing, because it gave us a platform to be able to deal with things together, to be able to build what we wanted together. So I think it goes hand in hand with me having to go through that growth experience, whereby I realized that, you can't have things fall apart because of trust issues. These are fixable issues. The only time that they are not fixable is because the other one is unwilling. But when we manage to sit and just let the waters flow and be consistent, things came together.
All of the above.
Yeah, all of the above. I actually went to Google and I Googled the 10 leading reasons for divorce. And when I looked at the list, we're like,
It was
we've
just
gone
infidelity and abuse that we didn't.
80 or 90% of that list. And people generally in life who have gone through divorce, we're like, oh, they divorced. We've gone through that. Oh, that's a divorceable thing. Like, you're like, all of these things we've gone through, like short marriage, but we've gone through a lot. Like,
But I think it's not necessarily what we go through. I think possibly it's been... So basically, it just shows that it's not the external things that really have a bearing, but more the internal things that can break you apart. I think what we both struggled with was you can't pause marriage to work through your issues. So somebody triggers you, and you can't say, I'm going to go deal with this on my own. Usually what I do is I'd disappear, stop being friends with you. I can't stop. I didn't have a reason. There was a time where I was like, I'm leaving. And the Lord was like, then what are you going to say? What's your cause of divorce? I didn't have a cause, but I can't pause this to work through my issues. So still trying to be nice to you while it's an issue that is small, but I must work through it together. I think that's really something that we struggled with, because we both maybe feared being vulnerable in those times, I guess. Yeah.
What she said, I think you're right. That was a struggle,
To be honest, I don't think we can actually take credit for what makes us work.
Sure.
I think we've been dealt a good hand of cards by God.
That's true. Yeah.
But if I had to say what I think makes us work, I'd say we're very similar. We're easygoing.
Yeah.
we don't like stress. We just
Don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah.
we don't sweat the small stuff. Like, I'm not sure if it's the influence. Remember earlier on we spoke about the different families we spend time with. They were very fun families, and I think then I knew I wanted to live in a not stress free, because life will always come with its its uppercuts. But generally, yeah, what makes us work is we don't sweat the small stuff. We focus on what we need to focus on and just take it one day at a time. Yeah.
I would add that the other thing that makes us work is continuous improvement. So one of the things that we've learned, I think, since the dating days is like being able to share like the stuff that we learn that helps us become better people, better couples. So I think that's also helped us because you learn things about yourself that, sometimes you just need to improve and get better. Yeah.
Yeah. I think also in talking about continuous improvement, it's keeping God at the center, because think about it, as I said, growing up, I didn't have an ideal that I necessarily thought of or looked towards. But keeping God at the center gives you an ideal to always try and work towards. And I think we take criticism all very well. Like if Tabang says, "Hey, bro, I don't think this is working. Like, let's do it this." Then, obviously, when that is said, you feel like, "Ish, but I really thought this was going to work this way." But yeah, we are open to discussion, open to communicating.
Rather say it than not say it. Yeah.
Rather say than not say it. So I don't know if it's our personalities, and so far it's worked. It's been a long time, and so far so good. I don't want to touch wood. Yeah.
I think what makes us work, okay, I'll say maybe from my part as a man, I'm sure most of the time people will say, yeah, no, as a man, I must set my own pace, my own rules and whatever. But for me, what I came to understand, or what I appreciated about marriage, when God said that Eve is your helper, in my mind, I looked at it as, so everything is my responsibility. And this person is here to help me. So that was the first calibration in my thoughts. I did not look at marriage as, you must do this, you must do that. So why that set a good foundation for me is because it allowed me to sit down with my wife and say, let's be equal in all our decisions. Let's give each other a fair hearing. And yes, of course, it doesn't mean that sometimes when you see that, okay, this one is not a very good decision, I can't be firm on it. But I would have earned that allowance to be firm where I need to be firm, because she has seen my consistency, you see. So in other words, she now had gained trust, you see, over time. But one of the things that I think is very valuable and what makes us work is that I took it to heart when they said, what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours. Everything I brought home to the table, I never looked at it as mine. I never looked at anything that I contributed as mine. And so as a result, she felt like she was absolutely one with me in that whole situation.
Yeah, we also provide each other with a platform to speak freely. Nothing is off topic, nothing is off limits. We give each other that room to be very free with each other about how we feel, what we would like from one another, and I think that helps. Also, we balance each other out. He's very calm. I'm sort of chaotic, so when he needs to loosen up a little bit, I help with that. When I need to be a bit more, focused and serious, that's we balance each other out, and I think that's good. We also have rules of engagement. You don't, if we have disagreement, we don't just say whatever that comes to mind. You don't put each other down. There are certain things there are limits to how low we go. it's not just what you think and you just say it. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I like
I,
that.
I think I'm in line with what you're saying. No, I can't tolerate shouting in my ear. I just don't know how to listen to someone shouting. So we had to also address to say there's no shouting when you want to address a point, because I'm not going to be able to hear the point the way you want me to hear it. You see, it builds automatically. If someone shouts at you, you want to defend yourself. You see, but if you then, one of the things I remember saying in as we were trying to iron out an issue is that we need to remember we have keys to each other's hearts, and we need to know how to use those keys to each other's hearts, because that is how we got together. And so sometimes life throws you curveballs and you forget that, listen, I know how to unlock this person's heart. And love should take precedence in order for us to be able to solve issues. And for us, it has worked. Yes, there were turbulent times, but that's where we learned.
Yeah, also because we're both last ones, so we know how to fight. And and the one thing also that helps us is that we report each other to God. If I see that I can't get through, I just be like, Lord, this is your child. Please talk to him. He does the same thing. So he's been with us and he's helped us a lot with that.
And I think that's very important, reporting each other to God and not to parents. Because I've seen most of the time that people run to parents for every little issue in their marriage, often don't know how to solve their problems. And as a result, some divorce because they look to their parents, and it's not a perfect place, or rather it's not a perfect thing to take every little problem and run to your parents. But if you run to God, now it's me, it's God, it's my wife. We have to solve this thing.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
The right question is God. Yes. The right answer is God. Yeah, God makes us work. But there are also other things. I don't know. What do you think?
We're friends. I think more than anything, ke brayaga. Like we're proper friends. So even if I don't want to speak to him as my husband, I want to speak to him as my friend. And I think early on we read some book, and the author emphasized this idea that sin is the problem and not your partner. And so when we encounter issues, sometimes you want to say, Mara, this guy, wow. But then you start thinking, actually, this is a sin that he is struggling with. And I guess because we're both missionaries, that makes us empathetic to the other. Now there's a soul to save. So now you're praying, not just about your irritation, but because shame, he's really struggling with such and such a thing. Let me pray for, he's struggling with forgiveness, Lord. Help this man see you. So sin is the enemy, not him.
Yeah.
But most importantly, and also we have a really weird sense of humor. So anything is,
everything is
we
a
don't
joke.
take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
So anything can and will become a joke.
Yeah. Even the embarrassing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's us.
All right. So season 1 was all about Jokobet. It was basically dealing with the principles underlying everything. But season 2, we're going to be dealing with, I want to say dysfunction, but families don't come in neat packages where you can, just work out the principles only. So this season, we're looking at the story of Joseph. So from the story of Joseph is a young man who stands for God, but his family's a mess, right? He stands in spite of his family. So what are some of the insights that we can draw from the story of Joseph as we weave the basket for the babies?
For me, one of the easiest or most obvious lessons relates to favoritism. Obviously, we see what happens between, Joseph and his brothers, and the Bible is quite clear that Joseph's father favored him. So as a parent, that's one of the things that I learn, that you can love God, you can have lots of wonderful ambitions for your family, but if you fail to be fair to your children, it can cause a harvest of problems. So favoritism is definitely not on. And Joseph's favoritism was a bit like too much. I think in normal
Why
everyday,
not make a code for all the kids?
but in our instances, it might be less. It might be more subtle. But it's like comparing kids. Hey, why can't you be like your whoever? Why can't you be like Why can't you? So things like that can cause division. And for me, that's definitely a big red flag for families. The second one is time. Last season we're looking at Moses and now we're looking at Joseph. And for both of those kids, they didn't spend, 40 years with their parents. You know what I'm saying? With Moses, it was even shorter, 12 years, and then he was off. Joseph, 17 years, and he was off. And I think I said this last season when we were talking about the great controversy. There is this deception that we get as parents to think you've got forever. But children are not children for long. I mean, just look at newborns. A newborn is only for the first 4 weeks, literally, and then they're no longer a newborn. Toddler, then they're gone. And, so likewise, I think as parents, let us, there's a quote that I like where Ellen White says, the best way to prepare for tomorrow's crisis is to do what you need to do today. I've obviously paraphrased it, but do your duty today. So likewise, instead of always, thinking, oh, I've got tomorrow, do what you need to do today, because we don't know how much time we have with our kids. I mean, even if it's 18 years and then they go off to college or something, that's still a very short space of time. So those are my lessons.
Okay.
For me, I find it's important as a parent to cultivate love of your children for one another. I don't know if it makes sense. Like, it's not enough that they grow up in the same household, they share space. You should, as a parent, take note, okay, these people do not like each other. And it's up to me to make sure they know that, they have each other and they're all that they have. And it's important for them to love one another because, they're family. And I find that in the situation with Joseph, I don't know, Jacob was passive and he just loved Joseph, the favorite kid. But I find that it's important. It was fine. The other kids didn't belong to the wives that he loved, but they were his children. I think it was important for him to let them, be real brothers, towards each other. Yeah, cultivate that, siblingship and brotherhood that is important because it would benefit them in the future to look out for each other and protect each other instead of selling each other out like they did Joseph. So, yeah.
Mr. Makakul.
Yeah, I think Yamora with Jacob, he just shows that he was human. As much as he was a man who feared God, he was human and he made a human mistake. His wife, Joseph came from the woman that he actually wanted, although he then went along with the polygamous setup. And I think what you see in the situation of Joseph and his brothers is very typical of what happens in a polygamist setup. I think we have modern day examples of prominent people that we can think about, like the royal family. There's now a fight over who is king. And such things come from the polygamist setup. There will always be rivalry in those situations. But now when it's now kids in the same house, same parents, I think it's very important to observe the uniqueness of each child. It's very important to also encourage the children to also, how do I put it, be happy for each other's achievements or talents or uniqueness. Because in heaven, when you think about heaven, there will be people who have done well in this earth. Like you talk about the issue of a crown of many stars for others, and others maybe the crown is So you must be used to the fact that others have done well, and you must be happy about that and not harbor any bad things. So that's something very important to teach our children, because they need to learn that life out there is not equal. the only thing you can do is to help them excel to the best of their ability and help them push harder, help them push the boundaries. And tomorrow, people will praise them, and they must also not forget to praise others at the same time.
So to the viewers at home, these are the microphones used in Joseph's time.
Hallelujah.
So do not be. So yeah. So I think the lesson that I can extract from the story of Joseph and his experience, I think that parenting is twofold. It's not just about the things that you teach the child, but it's also important who you are. So you are not only passing forth skills and training character, but also the importance of who you are, your relationship to God, having that testimony that they must see you battling with the Lord and wrestling, and you must be able to say, when I went through this, I called on to the Lord. And we see that in the life of Joseph. He's crying, then he decides, I'm going to live for the Lord. I'm going to worship the God of my fathers. And that's kids must have that privilege that I have seen my father, and it's not just theoretical things, but I have seen a real example of what my father believed, and they can also make that choice. So the good character development is also a process or a part of parenting. It's not just, hey, don't do this. Hey, it's also who you are. So here's the microphone. Handle it with care.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. What you just said now is a testament of how the Holy Spirit works. Because I thought about this question, that's what I thought about. I thought about how Joseph behaved when he was in Egypt. And that behavior was informed by what he saw his father do in situations of testing, of strife, where he would go back to God and ask God for strength, for guidance. And so we see that playing itself out in Joseph's life. So it's important for us to model that for our children. It's important for parents to know that children learn. I mean, we all know, like in the sciences, it says children learn more from observing and then seeing what we do than what we say. So there's a high level of learning that happens there. So it's important that we model that relationship with God, that we model so that they know, hey, listen, Magshubile, my father goes to God. And when it's time to celebrate, my father goes to God. I mean, this guy saved an entire nation because of learning to have a relationship with God. So we don't know what the future holds for our kids. We don't know what world politics looks like 10 years from now. But what we know is that God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So that's I think I'm with you. We could definitely do that. And I think that's the legacy we can leave for our kids.
I think mine, two of them. I'm actually surprised.
You don't want the mic?
No,
I'm
no,
just
no.
kidding.
I have my own. I'm actually surprised nobody said it, but the idea of forgiveness, right? If Joseph had even been a decent guy and let them buy grain and leave, I mean, first of all, he could have been a mean guy and said, in fact, hack all of you. But had he even been a decent guy and let them buy grain and leave without exposing that I am Joseph, your brother, Jacob's lineage would not have been saved. So in doing the more than decent thing, the Christian thing, that's how he was actually able to preserve his siblings and the progeny of his father. But it also actually helped heal him. He got to see his father again. He got to see Benjamin again. And he got to see the conversion in his siblings. After the father dies, the siblings come and they think, yo, hey, the father's dead. Now this guy's going to show us flames. And he weeps at the fact that his brothers are doubting how much he has forgiven them. And it's because the forgiveness doesn't stem from I should forgive, but it stems from the fact that his life is in God's hand. So he says, you guys meant it for evil, but God did it for good. So whatever happens, it doesn't matter what bad somebody does to you, God will use it for good. So because of that, I can forgive you because God has turned the table. The other one that I thought of was vulnerability. I think all of this could have been saved, vulnerability and feedback. All of this could have been saved if one of the siblings said, Mar Joseph, you know, when you speak about this coat of many colors, you hate this thing, you know? Or Dad, when you make Joseph a coat alone, can you make us all scarves at least with the material, right? Had Jacob created an environment where his kids could come and give him feedback, who knows? The story would not have gone that way. Had one of the siblings been vulnerable enough to say, this kind of hurts. No pit, no slavery, no prison. And yeah. But I think more than anything, just highlights that no matter how messy a family can be, from the messiest family, even from there, children are still able to be trained to stand for God. And that's the essence of the season. So yeah, thank you all for joining us on the mega episode. And I pray that it's been a blessing to each and every one of you. And as we go through the season, we see that this, for the first time, you know, we're looking at it from the point of view of a father, and a father's work. And join us on the next episode. It's going to be great. And God bless you. God bless you guys too.